I'm a guy that never really bets against Tom Brady. I think he's done some pretty, remarkable things in this league in terms of winning championships. So when you look at what he's done, he still has Gronk out there, OJ Howard. If they get the running game back, I think they could put a run together. And he's the one quarterback I think can go into Lambeau and actually beat Aaron Rodgers.
The final weekend of the call it 2021 regular season, week 18. Welcome in Big Man Bets with the 7-time Pro Bowler, a man who's excited to see his Jets play for the final time this season, Nick Mangold, and of course on the Hall of Fame ballot, let's get him there, and Orlando Hall of Famer, greatest show on turf, Pace, who might be thinking his Rams are going to win the Super Bowl with all the craziness that's going on. I want to start with Antonio Brown and the Bucs and a very interesting NFL weekend. Let's just look at it from moving forward. And Orlando, maybe start here. Can the Bucs, and considering everything that's going on, Green Bay being the 1 seed and home field and all that, can the Bucs still be in that conversation and ultimately make it to the Super Bowl and win it without AB? What do you think?
I think they can. I'm a guy that never really bets against Tom Brady. I think he's done some pretty, remarkable things in this league in terms of winning championships. So when you look at what he's done, he still has Gronk out there, OJ Howard. If they get the running game back, I think they could put a run together. And he's the one quarterback I think can go into Lambeau and actually beat Aaron Rodgers just from scheme and just from using his weapons. I think he's won Super Bowls with a lot less talent on the outside if they have a running game. So, but he is a little older, but I will not bet against Tom Brady. He's proven us all wrong so many times. So I think they can still make a run and win a championship without AB.
I agree. I do love that the AB extravaganza really came down against my Jets because we're getting some good, good exposure there in the end zone. It shocks me that you have this opportunity, looking from AB's perspective. You're playing with Tom Brady, the greatest of all time quarterback. You have this opportunity and things go down. Now, I heard that there was also something about an injury and that, he didn't want to go back in because of an ankle or something. So I feel like this story is not done. And that worries me. Like the fact that this story isn't done. It's not clear cut. He is still technically he's still on the roster. I saw that he did not hit the waiver wire, so the Bucs still own his rights. So this story with all the injury things that popped up and just the craziness that he had isn't done, and that's going to continue over. And there's going to be questions, and there's going to be interviews. There's going to be, reporters saying, hey, do you think AB still has a chance to help this team? And, then it's going to seep into the locker room. So if there's anything, I'm never going to bet against Tom Brady. I'm going to say that. But if there's ever anything that was going to do it, a major distraction right before the playoffs could be the thing that derails what Tampa's trying to do.
And I think it's a little weird that they hadn't released him yet, right? So there's something going on behind the scenes that makes you think, hold on, we may need this guy down the stretch. Hey, let Tom, have Tom invite him over to the house. They reconcile their differences. He'll come to Arians and say, I'll be 100%, all in, and because they need him. I mean, Chris Godwin's out, and so they need him. So I think Tom Brady may, you never know, hey, let's talk to ABC if we can rectify the situation because, obviously it was a lot of emotions after the game, and he said he's no longer a Buccaneer, but that could all be subject to change because he's still technically on the roster.
Well, Nick, this is the Cardinals sin in football, right? You can do a lot of bad things off the field, but you quit on your team in the middle of the game. That in NFL world is the biggest no-no. Would you, if you're a Buck or even somewhere else around the NFL, would you want him on your team?
I think the biggest question, and I think around the NFL, they're going to say no. I think within the Buccaneers organization, it's going to depend on the situation. And none of us are ever going to know exactly what went down, how it went down, how the players feel about it. it could be a situation where, he was dealing with an ankle injury and said, hey, listen, I can't go in. It's the Jets. Like, we're going to win anyways. We have Tom. It doesn't matter. I need to rest this so I can get ready for the playoffs. And coach coming down and saying, hey, listen, you need to go in. Like, we got to show the young guys that we can play through different things or whatever. No one knows. But that's the thing. Like, no one's going to know what's going on inside that organization, inside that locker room. So if the locker room is still behind him, and I haven't heard either way other than Tom Brady coming out and saying, hey, listen, whatever you think about AB, we need to support him and try to get him the help that he needs. It could be a thing where, in a week, the playoffs are here and like, hey, yeah, he's starting again. Don't worry about it. We need to make a push. So the talent will always win in the NFL. And it just depends. Like, I think outside of Tampa Bay, any team looking at it, like, they're looking at another Odell Beckham Jr., where it's just kind of we don't need that hassle. Leave it over there. We're good. But the Buccaneers might be, hey, listen, it was disagreement that got out of hand. It happens. Things happen, and that's one of the big things I think that we look at it as observers and say, hey, listen, this interaction between these two people, this coach and the player, or two players, like, I can't believe that happened. And in the end, it's like, two brothers fighting. They fight and then they sit down at dinner and they share their meal. So I think we make too much of it, but at the same time, AB did go over the top and was kind of outlandish in it. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out.
If this guy was on my recreational hoop team / softball or whatever, I would be like, get this. I wouldn't care if he was the 3 hitter and hit 4. But I would want nothing to do with him. So maybe that's just too utopian. This is professional sports, Orlando, but like, I wouldn't want him around. I'd rather win and or lose without him. That's how I would look at it.
Yeah, but he still has talent. And you look at all the things that AB's done off the field. Everybody thought it was his last straw a few different times. And still people brought him back because he could run and catch, right? So and then you got the GOAT. When you have the GOAT vouching for you multiple times, your character, I think that keeps you in the league. So he owes Tom Brady probably his career at this point just for keeping him around for another couple years. And, they had success last year, a couple years ago winning the championship. So, I think Tom Brady, kind of controls that narrative a little bit in terms of if AB stays with the team or not.
AB should definitely be sending Christmas cards and or at least calling up the dude and saying my apologies for.
Yeah, Carm, I want to hit with the idea of, so you go through all this and like in Orlando, this is more towards you a little bit. You're on the sideline. You have this explosion. You're obviously not in the right frame of mind, and you take your jersey off. You storm off the field, but it's an away game. Like, you need to get back to Tampa. Like, do you think that ever ran through his mind? Was like, hey, listen, I just stormed off. Like, he gets back to the locker room, doesn't have his shirt on. He's getting changed, going to hit the showers. He's like, oh, crap, are they going to let me on the plane? Like, do you think that ever rolled through his mind?
I don't think it hit his mind until he actually got to the locker room and called the Uber driver, like, hold on, I can't even get an Uber out here at MetLife, man. But I don't think that crossed his mind. Initially, like, hey, I'm not in Tampa. I got to find a way back to Tampa. And then I don't know what I'm going to do tonight. Trying to find a flight in today's, the past few weeks, either you fly private, which is expensive, is all I know. So I don't think he thought that one through as much as I think people, you're like, dude, you're going to quit on a away game at half? Like, that doesn't make any sense. So, it wasn't thought out well at all. I heard he had security trying to take him out to the street to find an Uber, and it was a complete mess. Not well planned by AB.
Along those lines, the most outlandish thing you've ever seen a teammate and or like anything around the game that you've seen that would remotely rival what happened there? Does anything jump to mind for either of you?
I think that's it for me. I've never seen a player take a shirt off in the middle of a game and go. And the thing I think about with AB, because I heard there was a couple of bonuses tied to his contract this year. I don't know any player that's thrown away more money than Antonio Brown, man, between the debacle with the Raiders and, he had a couple $1 million bonuses. Just stay in the game, man. Make your catches, get your bonuses, and keep it moving, man. So that's it.
Yeah, we talked last week about eking out that extra contract. Here he is just throwing away incentives left and right. The one, it wasn't as public as AB taking his jersey off and running off the field in the middle of a game, but we had one. I think it was either my rookie year or second year. We traded for a running back from San Fran, and this was in like the Eric Mangini. He's running the hardest training camps of all time, grinding everybody. No one really wanted to come to the Jets type thing. So we traded for this guy, and he goes MIA and doesn't show up for like 2 days, and they had to coerce him to come back to come to the team. And he's coming from a team. It wasn't like a guy who was in the middle of it and like, oh, this is terrible, I don't like it, and leaves for a day and then needs to come back. This is a guy that wasn't on the team, hears that it's so terrible that he doesn't even want to show up after getting traded for. Like, it was one of those, everyone knows, like, all right, we traded this guy, and then we're all just sitting there like, so when's he showing up? Like, is he gonna make it here anytime? Like, we know that these things happen very quickly. I found that to be a very strange interaction, that you trade for a guy and he's just like, no, I'm good, but then ends up showing up. Like, it was just weird.
Nothing like in the locker room where guys are, I don't know, punching walls or anything like that.
Yeah,
I mean, I had the great one. I wasn't in the locker room. I was in the training room when it happened. But I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick, got his start because IK punched out Geno Smith over a $600 flight, I think, and broke his jaw. That was wildly crazy. I mean, and I wish and one of those things that you go back, I wish I was still in the locker room when it happened, just so I could say, oh yeah, I was there and I saw it. But it's one of those events that happens, it's in New York Jet lore that the starting quarterback got his jaw broken by a backup linebacker. And I happened to be in the training room and missed the whole thing.
That right there feels like the intensity of the NFL behind the scenes. All right, let's move on to a different form of kind of scratch your headness. So we're looking at Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers. And first off, news out yesterday, one of the MVP voters for the Associated Press Award, which is the gold standard for the MVP, Hub Arkish, who's a longtime NFL guy, said that he will not vote for Aaron Rodgers because of all the drama that he created around the teams, specifically in the offseason last year. Is he going to play? Is he not going to play? Is he going to stay doing Instagram videos? And then, added onto it with everything that came out with Aaron in the vaccine. So, look, the Packers are the 1 seed, but he has been in the news a lot. So I don't, there's a lot of ways to look at this. Nick, did you think that was crazy, or what do you think of a guy not voting for Aaron because of the off-field stuff?
Yeah, I think it's crazy. I think when you talk about the MVP, it's the most valuable player. It's not the greatest guy. It's not the best teammate. It's not the best businessman. You go down that litany of items. It's the most valuable player, and who brings the most value to their team. And to me, as I look at it, I mean, how do you not vote for Aaron Rodgers? And it pains me that he said that he would not vote for him, or he was turned off before the start of the season. So he didn't even see him play a down of football and says that he's not going to vote for him. Like, when you already put that stigma on him, how do you still get a vote? Like, why do you still get to have a decision in something that to some people is very important? Guys are striving for it. And to count somebody out before the season even starts, I think should disqualify you immediately from being able to vote ever again.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he should be disqualified from ever having an opportunity to vote for an MVP. But believe it or not, this happens all the time. If you have personal reasons why you don't like a guy, voters choose not to vote for those guys, anyway. But to come out publicly and say, this is why I'm not voting for this guy, it's really doing a disservice to the MVP race and everybody who's worked so hard. You really got to give credit to Aaron Rodgers for what he's been able to accomplish this season, going through everything that he's gone through and still having his Packers number one in the NFC, and playing at a very high level, at the quarterback position. And it's supposed to be all about on the field, but voters tend to take things pretty personal at times. You can look at every year, you can look at the Hall of Fame voting. You can see guys that they don't select simply because they don't like that person. So it happens all the time. You just never hear a reporter come out and say publicly, hey, this is why I'm not voting for this guy, no matter what he does. So his voting rights should be revoked in terms of the MVP vote. I don't know who's in charge of it, but somebody should really look into it.
And Aaron, if we all had to wager a guess here, I think he's going to get the award. I'm sure Jonathan Taylor will get votes, and maybe Cooper Kupp will, and Tom will too. But it'll be interesting to see how many people are not voting for Rodgers when he's, I think, clearly the MVP. Does anybody disagree with that? Are you guys more on the Jonathan Taylor? Orlando, you've been talking about Jonathan a lot, but if you had to vote, who would you vote for?
You got to give it to Aaron just for what he's done. Obviously, and he doesn't have a ton of tools, but just playing at such a high level. I've been watching them past 3 or 4 weeks, and man, the way he controls that offense and throws the ball and makes his decisions, man, it's hard to vote against him.
Yeah, it is. There are cases to be made for Tom, I think, just numbers wise. But when you see what Aaron is doing in Green Bay, in the way that he's handled himself and the way that he carries that team, like his swagger, I think just goes throughout that team. And it's impressive to watch the way that he is able to fling that ball. Like you watch it and you're just like, you're in awe. And it's something that is fun to watch and exciting. So he would get my vote, but I could definitely see how you would have the case to give it to Tom, to give a vote to Jonathan. I think, he's done well. I have a hard time giving it to an MVP to a wide receiver without them doing something other than just catching the ball. I think that's your job that you're supposed to do. Are you making your team better by being a wide receiver? And I have a hard time believing any wide receiver is able to do that. So like that to me goes away. So I understand the other votes, but mine would be Aaron Rodgers.
There's a full shot at the wide receivers out there. Look at that.
Absolutely. Let me ask you guys a question, because I was having this discussion the other day. Let's say Aaron Rodgers wins the MVP, but doesn't win the championship. Where does he rank among, the all-time greats? Because, obviously Tom won so many, Peyton won. So if he doesn't win, does that really affect his legacy a little bit?
Go ahead, Nick.
I'll take it. It was funny. I was talking to my wife about this the other day. If Aaron doesn't win another Super Bowl, and it's kind of one of those things like, oh, if he doesn't win another Super Bowl, sitting as someone who never won one, is kind of like, just a dagger in the heart. Like, I would give anything to be able to win one. And here we are talking about guys, not winning multiple ones. But if he doesn't, you sit there and you say, yes, he's a fantastic quarterback. He is unbelievable at the position. He can make the throws. He can do the reads and everything. But then at the same time, you have to look, and this is no shot at Eli. I love him. He's fantastic. He's a neighbor. But Eli has 2. So if Aaron doesn't win another one, now you have Eli sitting there who's like, listen, I'm a 2-time Super Bowl champion, and you're just a 1-time Super Bowl champion. Like he can show up into a room and hold that over Aaron Rodgers, which I think to me is crazy, because Aaron, I believe, is so much better in the quarterback world. But for all the accolades and the rings and everything, that's where it is. Eli stands above Aaron in Super Bowls.
Look, everyone's like, he should win it this year. They're the 1 seed. if he's not on that team, they're not even a 500 team in my mind. So it's like, they're there because of him. And very few people agree with me, but of the quarterbacks that I've seen in my lifetime, best QB, I'd say Dan Marino. Dude was unbelievable throwing the football. I've never seen anything like it. And he's not in the conversation because he never won one. So I think we overrate championships, but I feel alone on that branch a lot of the time. So, but here, let's go back to Green Bay. You've clinched home field. You're the 1 seed. You got to bye. Those guys want to play this week. Aaron specifically, if you're coaching the Packers, do you sit your players in Week 18, Orlando?
Yeah, I would, especially Aaron dealing with that toe. And he's so much of that offense, as you mentioned. You don't want to risk him getting hurt. Detroit's a team that plays hard. So you don't want them to take any unnecessary hits. They're going to get that bye the week after. So, rest them for 2 weeks, get them playoffs. Yeah, I don't play Aaron Rodgers because he's the entire offense. So, let that toe heal up and see what you got in Jordan Love. You may have to roll with him next year.
I think you need to play him, even if it's just for a quarter or two. You do have that bye going into the playoffs, and having 2 weeks off, I feel like there could be some rust coming into that playoff game, and it's not what you want. I would definitely be run heavy. Just have Aaron hand the ball off. We're not taking any deep passes. Everything quick. Try to make it as less dangerous as you can. But I would still have him play. Just to get keep things moving. You're on a roll. You have great momentum. I'd hate to see that loss because you're like, all right, we're gonna rest guys. I would love to see the stats, and I'm not very good at looking up stats, but I'd love to see the stats of teams that rested players and see how far they got in the playoffs, because it'd be interesting to see. Just does it work or does it not work? Are teams riding that momentum, riding that wave into the playoffs and then roll through, or teams that have clinched it rest guys? Does it work out? Does it not? That'd be very interesting to look into.
Well, and, Nick, just for that, we did look that up over here. 33% of the time, you rest starters, you lose. So 1 out of 3, that's not nothing. Does that change your opinion, Orlando? Or, that's one stat out there. Each circumstance, you have to take it on, whatever is actually going on. And Aaron is dealing with a toe.
Yeah, and I think you look at every team differently, depending if you got a veteran team. Where's your team health wise? Can you get guys healthy if he has that additional week off? So I think every team is a little different. Your coaching staff, how you approach the game. If you want to go in and give Aaron a quarter or a couple series and approach it almost like a preseason game, just to keep his the rhythm of the offense and the defense. But me, being a lineman, hey, give me the week off, man. I can rest up and do my thing and get ready in a couple of weeks. So that's speaking from a lineman that's played and been in those situations. Give me the 2 weeks off, man.
Hand up, I'm taking that. I want that week off too. I'm just saying no one cares if the center takes time off, but if the quarterback, he might need a little bit of just keeping the rhythm. But I'm with you. Give me the week off.
Well, is it the organization's job to protect the player from himself? Like, I know at the end of your career, Nick, you're trying to rush yourself back from an ankle injury. Maybe the Jets should be like, dude, you ain't playing for however long. Let that thing heal up, and it's better for you. It's better for the team. Like, do you look at it like it's the organization's job?
I don't know. It's interesting because they did fire me after that season, so I don't know if they really cared either way. But it would be. I think the organization should have a kind of a overall picture, but at the same time, you want to win games and you want to keep the fan base interested. And players are going to play. Like, I feel like it more comes down to coaches. I think less. Like, if a GM came and said, "Hey, listen, we don't want you to play this week. We're worried about you and everything," you look a little side-eyed. But if a coach came and said something like, "Hey, listen, I'm looking out for your best interest here. You're kind of jaded by your own personal ego and everything. we need you later, shut it down and hold on. I feel like that would have more weight than someone coming from the front office.
Yeah. I don't know if teams are necessarily protecting, at least the front office aren't necessarily protecting players that way. I think if you can be on the field, they want you on the field. But to your point, it depends on who's backing you up too and who you're playing. Because they tend to, if you're playing a stud on the other side, they kind of want you in there and trying to fight and through it a little bit with your teammates. So, but ultimately, I think it's up to the player to decide if he can go or if he can't go, and the importance of the game. If it's a big game, we need you in there if you can go. So I think the player, based on his practice habits or who he is, and can that coach trust that player to go out there and make smart decisions. If he's hurt, then he's out the game. So I think a lot of factors play into whether you go out and play, injured or not.
Y'all think this is the Packers' year to win it all, Nick?
It's set up for them, and for me as a Aaron Rodgers fan, I want it to be. It seems too perfect, getting that first seed, getting the home field advantage, having that first round bye. Like it seems too set up, and I feel like the NFL, we always talk about it's the greatest soap opera of all time. It is gonna throw a wrench in it. And I have that feeling. Like I want Aaron Rodgers to be able to get another chip and to say, he's got multiple Super Bowls. But I feel like it's the NFL. It's the greatest, as the NFL turns, the greatest reality show of all time. I don't think it's. I think it's going to happen, but I feel like other forces are going to stop it from happening.
Yeah, when you look at it, it's set up so perfectly, man. Bye week, you're cruising into this thing, and teams don't really want to go to Lambeau. I was watching that game the other night, and I was like, geez, I couldn't imagine playing in Lambeau in late January, man. So when you look at that, you're just like, man, it has to happen. Like Aaron's going to have a horrible game or something, turnovers or whatever. But, I think he's primed to win. I like to see – I think they're the favorite going into it. So, it'll be an interesting playoff, but it is set up perfectly for the Packers to win it. And then if you're Aaron, what do you do? Because you've been talking about leaving Green Bay forever. Do you stay or do you go if they end up winning a championship? So,
you want to answer that question?
It's going to be the greatest story. If he wins the Super Bowl in Green Bay, from February, what's the game? The game's on the 13th, I think. From February 13th to March, whatever the league year starts, that is going to be the story that dominates every day, from morning to night. It's all we're going to hear about. Is Aaron Rodgers staying? Is he going? Like, what's going to happen? It's going to be unbelievable.
Yeah. When you think about if he's staying or going, what other options does he have to have better talent and doesn't have a quarterback need? I think he's in the place where he needs to stay. I would stay there, especially if you win a championship. He'll go down as one of the best. He's already one of the best in the Green Bay history, but he'll add to that legacy.
He says he's going to make a quick decision, so hopefully that'll be the case. But if he doesn't, actually, it'll be good for conversation. So, Aaron, from the media, go ahead, drag it out. It'll be good for us. All right, let's move on here. Biggest disappointment 2021 as we wrap it up here. A lot of candidates from Baker and the Browns, Urban, Trevor, the Jaguars, the Seahawks have had their massive struggles this year. You can go off the board. I'm seeing people shaking their heads here. Who wants to go first? Nick, you got this one?
I'll start off. I can't. The biggest disappointment I can't give to Urban and the Jaguars. We all saw that coming. We knew it wasn't going to work. So I can't say that's the biggest disappointment. I think, to me, it's a tie between the Browns and the Seahawks. The Seahawks, you have Russell Wilson. You have an amazing quarterback. And the fact that you're not winning games, you're uninspired. How do you go with a franchise quarterback and not do that well is shocking. And then the Browns, who Baker, we still don't know about him. we're still trying to figure out, which is, I think, is a red flag. If we're still trying to figure out this many years in, maybe it's not meant to be figured out. But they had a run game, they had a defense, and so we had what we thought was a competent Browns team, and to be out of the playoffs, those two are the biggest disappointments. I don't know if we expected a lot of the Browns, but I know we expected a lot of the Seahawks because they have Russell Wilson. That's the big thing. If you say you have this franchise quarterback and he's the one that's going to win you games, and you have such a dismal season, I feel like, that has to be the biggest disappointment.
Yeah, I agree with you. When you look at disappointments, it's easy because I'm a de facto Browns fan, and you watch Baker the other night playing football, man. He looks like a shadow of what we thought he would be. Just because he wasn't throwing the ball, he looks like a bottom 5 quarterback, and everybody had playoff aspirations for the Browns, even Super Bowl aspirations. But since Nick picked that, I'll go with the Chicago Bears front office, their organization. A little disappointed they didn't make a move with Nagy, man, and what he's done for Justin Fields has been a disservice to that kid, and the organization probably should have moved on from him earlier this year. Obviously, I'm not sure what they're waiting on. I think the press kind of forced them right after that Thanksgiving Day game, that when all the rumors were out about firing them. When you got a guy in there that can't develop a kid, and you draft a kid that high in the draft, you want that coach. So I'm a little disappointed they didn't make a move earlier. And hopefully they do probably in the next couple of weeks, and then bring a coach in that can develop the kid.
Chicago is a fair underline. Let's hindsight's 2020 here, but if Baker could go back and do this again, doesn't he go about this differently? He bets on himself, then because he plays himself through an injury, plays terrible, lowers his market value. I mean, the Browns missed the playoffs. Awful on every level. Like, none of that worked out well, right? It seems like greed got in the way from Baker. Does that make sense?
It does. And I know we can say injury. Obviously, he got hurt. But when you just watch him, I watched him play the other night. He just doesn't have pocket presence. He's not aware of what's going on in the pocket. He's taking unnecessary sacks. And he really looks like a shell of himself, man, to be honest. Maybe he's a little shell shocked. When you look at that organization, they built so much around him. They have a really good offensive line. They brought receivers in, and he can't be productive with that team. I think it's time for the Browns to move on without Baker.
Yeah, I think Baker is lucky in the fact that he does have the injury, and can blame some of the struggles on that fact. And I think he mentioned after the recent game about a shoulder surgery that he wants to get done. And so it's one of those things where, I think he's done a disservice to himself, and it's unfortunate by not taking what he could when he could, but at the same time, I feel like the Browns are in a very good position now. They can say, hey, listen, we're not going to offer you Patrick Mahomes money because you're not Patrick Mahomes. You are what you are. We're going to offer you this, and let's see if we can do something. And they have a great foundation. Like Orlando was saying, they have a solid offensive line. They can run the ball. They had injuries at the running back position, and their defense is solid. So they're set up very well. And so I hope, Baker looks at that and says, hey, this is a great situation. This is where I need to be. Let's not chase this golden dragon that may or may not be there. And let's try to find some success here in Cleveland.
Before we get to our picks, let's from Big Man Bets, let's give a salute to a big man in Big Ben, who is in all likelihood playing his final game this week. Amazing career, gonna end up in the Hall of Fame, all that. So his draft class: Roethlisberger, Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers. Best of the bunch. Who you taking of those three, Orlando?
Oh, wow, that's a tough one. I may have to go with Big Ben. I think Big Ben won 2 championships. I think two Super Bowls, right? Because Eli, he did it, but he had a pretty good defense. But Ben, over the years, he's been a tough competitor, hard to take down in the pocket. Philip played a lot of games. He didn't win any championships. So I think out of those guys, I'm going to go with Big Ben, just for what he's done with the Steelers over 16, 17 years of playing.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. It was kind of tough seeing the end of that game and, seeing Ben's emotion and everything and him not just saying straight out, like, listen, this is definitely my last game. Like he danced around it and he said all the things that made it seem like it was his last game, but he never came out and straight said it. I think that would have been great for Heinz Field, for Steelers and everything. Like, hey, listen, I'm going out. We got our win. I took the knee. It's the greatest play in football. I'm done. Like, this is my swan song. I would have liked to seen that, but when we talk about those three quarterbacks, they're three fantastic quarterbacks, and I think any team right now would take any one of those quarterbacks in their prime with ease. But Ben takes it. It was always. You can stack up yards and completions and, the Super Bowl wins and everything. But when you think of a clutch player that you want to win the game in the fourth quarter and you need to drive down with 1:30 left, I'm taking Big Ben. It just seems that way. Like that's the guy that I want. So I think he comes out on top of that draft class.
We always do Belichick Brady, but every year this dude Ben Roethlisberger's been over 500, but Tomlin's been there since 2007. Between those two and the success of the Steelers, like who was more important to the run that they've had and this, multiple Super Bowls and all that? Is it the quarterback where I would tend to go, but maybe Tomlin doesn't get enough credit for what's going on over there.
Yeah, Tomlin's my favorite coach, man. Just his pressers and what he says in the pressers. As a matter of fact, as he is, to go through the turmoil that he's going through, with the Le'Veon Bell, the Antonio Browns, the Big Ben, all that turmoil, and still never have a losing season in the National Football League is sort of remarkable. I don't think we talk about it enough in terms of all the wins that he has. I know Belichick kind of overshadows him a little bit because of the championships, but it's tough to be in one place as long as he's been in Pittsburgh, and to have that type of success, man, is really awesome, man. And we should talk about it more. That he hadn't had a losing season since he's been coaching.
I feel like we could do a whole episode on the comparison of Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, and then Tomlin and Big Ben. You never really think about it, but that is something that's special between those two guys. And is it Big Ben or is it Mike Tomlin? And we're watching it play out right now with Tom and Bill, where they've gone their separate ways and they're seeing it, and we're never going to see that, I think, between Ben and Tomlin. But it's impressive to see what Tomlin's been able to do. You talk about the different distractions and everything, but also, his ability to keep that team together and to keep it going, to have the same identity that the Steelers have always had. They play physical defense, they run the ball, and they have solid quarterback play. The quarterback has nothing to do with running the ball or the solid defense. And they've kept that, throughout his whole tenure. And I think that's something special. So it would be an awesome discussion to really break down and look at it, because it's neat, like to think about, they've been together forever, and you don't, in your mind, like, it's always Tom and Bill, but really, Mike and Ben, it should be right there with them, even though they don't have the championships.
It's hey, when you make it nearly a decade with Antonio Brown before there was an incident, that's some big time kudos to Mike Tomlin amongst everything else. All right, let's make some money here. Big man bets. Look at the records. Orlando, you crept back in, but it officially is over. Orlando is now 24-25 after a 1-2 week, going to the final week here. So no miracle. Nick, you went 2-1. You are 28-21. So if you were following the Nick Mangold train here, you have an extra couple dollars in the kitty. Last week, you got your pick of the week, Nick, and your upset with the Packers is the pick of the week, and Baltimore was your upset. And you also, Orlando, you knocked down your under on the Miami, Tennessee in a 34-3 rout. So that means, Nick, you're back starting first this week after 2 back-to-back losing head-to-head weeks. For the record, Orlando, there's a victory for you. So, all right, pick of the week. Which way you going, Nick Mangold?
All right, I'm back on the winner's circle. I love it. It's good to be here. I'm glad that I can confidently say that I will not have a losing season this year. So I'm pumped about that. So this week with the AFC playoff picture, it's up in the air. Like it's crazy. I think there's still 6 teams that can get the number 1 seed out of all of this. So to me, I think the Pats are going to come out strong. They do have to go to Miami, which is going to be a little tricky here in January, but it's not going to be as hot as September. So I don't think that weather is going to play a factor as much. Taking the Pats -6.5 versus the Dolphins.
Good deal. For me, it's I'm going Kansas City over Denver +10. I think Kansas City losing that game last week in Cincinnati was a tough loss for them, but I think they bounced back. They want to hit their stride. Obviously, going into the playoffs, so I think they're gonna have all guns blazing, going out trying to put some points up on Denver.
For all your gambling needs, go to wynnbet.com, wynnbet.com. Let's go upset of the week, Orlando.
Yeah, for me, I'm going with Detroit Lions +2.5. The Fighting Dan Campbells over the Green Bay Packers. I think they're going to come out. They're going to fight really hard. Aaron Rodgers may or may not play, so it'll be an interesting game. But I think the Lions will finish their season off strong. Dan Campbell will end up crying in the presser at the end of the game about how his team fought hard. So it should be a good game.
I do like that bet. I'm a little worried that Aaron's going to make his push, that he wants to play the whole time. So, but I might sprinkle that one in just on my own. But for me, upset of the week, I think the Raiders still have a path to the playoffs. They're at home. They're versus the Chargers. Heated rivalry. They're getting +3. I think they could do something. They got a little mojo coming off of last week, so I'm excited for them. We'll see what happens, and fingers crossed, I'm going Raiders +3.
That's a super interesting game for the implications on who the Chiefs are most likely going to end up playing in the first round here. All right, over-unders. Let's look at the points. Nick, you're up.
Looking at the board, I didn't like any of these over-unders. I thought they were all tough to come up with. But I'm going with the Rams 49ers. I'm never taking another under in my life, so it's over 44.5. I think these teams can score points, and I'm hoping for a points fest. I don't know. We'll see. I did not like the over-unders this week.
Yeah, me either. I'm going with Tennessee Titans versus the Texans over 43 points. I think there'll be a little more scoring than they had last week, and so I'm going over 43. So
like it. Let's get some points on the board here in the final week of the season. I'm looking forward to some playoff time big man bets, baby. Let's go. It's going to be a lot of fun to see how this thing all shakes out. And as you put it, Nick, the NFL drama, the NFL soap opera. It's a phenomenal show.
Just keeps spinning, and I love it.
Thanks for checking out Big Man Bets. Enjoy the final week of the regular season, and we'll see you for the playoffs.